Life's best moments are best captured by photography and video. You may ask, why photography and video? Because if a photo is worth 1,000 words, video is worth 1,000,000. And GPS photography and video will leave you speechless. GPS specializes in weddings, sports, fitness, and so much more. Book your next shoot today at 910-257-0526 or gpsphotoandvideo.com.
Welcome to the Amazon's podcast. I'm Glenn Young, owner of Amazon's Fitness Magazine. Celebrate the female physique. Subscribe to AmazonsFitMag.com. The podcast is brought to you by title sponsor, Maximus Posing Suits. Let your inner warrior shine. Custom-made competition suits for victory on every stage. MaximusPosingSuits.com. And bronze level sponsor, Murder Weight Apparel. You're not just wearing a clothing brand, you're wearing a mindset. Murderweight.com. And, of course, GPS photography and video. Why photography and video? Because if a photo's worth 1,000 words, video's worth 1,000,000. GPSphotoandvideo.com. Amazon's Fitness Magazine is a GPS photography and video publication. Joining me, she's back, Marquet Johnson, NPC women's bodybuilder. And tonight, we wanted to focus more on her business because we didn't get a chance to discuss that last time. Wanderlust Travels, for those who like to wander. Marquette, thanks for joining me again.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you. So tell me about Wanderlust Travels and how it all got started.
So thank you for having me again, of course. Wanderlust Voyages started from my desire to find some more cost-effective ways to travel for competition. When I started this business, I was traveling or preparing to travel for nationals last year, and was just trying to look at options, and something occurred to me that if I were a travel agent, it may be more advantageous than trying to travel without those certifications or accreditation. Mm-hmm. So in the meantime, I was also approached by a friend who had a similar business, and so I felt like the timing was perfect. So joined. Actually, my first trip that I booked was my own travel for nationals. And everything went smoothly. Everything went great. Came back, and a few weeks later, I had my commission check from my own travel. So I started to think about, particularly with competitors, that travel can be very cost prohibitive for people doing shows that aren't local. And so having either that credentialing for yourself, and there's no expectation that you book travel for anybody else. You can always just use the benefit for yourself and make commission on your own travel, which we all know competition is expensive. And so why not save where you can? Or you can, book for others as well. But it's been very advantageous to have this business to help others, as well as, in these summer months, I have trips planned for my daughter and myself. There's just endless opportunity there. But I have a particular soft spot for competitors because I know that many people don't compete maybe to the extent that they want to, because especially now with how expensive travel can be.
Yeah, travel can be a barrier for sure. Now, do you do travel on all conveyances, i.e. bus, plane, train, boat? A lot
Yes.
of cruises are going on now this time of year as well.
Yes. So all aspects of travel, national and international group. I am certified as a group travel specialist,
Hmm.
as well as wellness travel. Wellness travel is a newer niche in the travel industry, and it's for people who are kind of similar to competitors in that they want to travel, they want to explore, but they still want to eat a certain way. They still want healthier
Hmm.
foods, cleaner foods, access to exercise facilities that are beyond what a typical hotel gym would look
Mm.
like, as well as time in nature, time to recharge, restorative services like spa and things like
Right.
that. Um, right now, cruises are huge.
Mm.
Um, Cruise lines seek us out as agents
Wow.
with
Okay.
deals and specials. And right now, cruise is huge. People book cruises years in advance. The cruise travel schedules are published through 2026. Um,
Wow.
and
Okay.
so people book way in advance for cruises, especially the longer cruises. Alaska is a very popular cruise destination, of course.
Hmm.
Greece, the
Hmm.
Mediterranean, the Caribbean is always somewhere you can go year round. But Alaska, I get a lot of requests for quotes for cruises to Alaska.
What have been some of the things or competitors have asked you when they come to book? Because you book some competitors through your travel agency, right?
Correct. So they ask for things like, can you find a hotel that has a kitchen? Can you
Mm.
find, things like that? Or
Right.
a big one is kitchen, access to cook food, proximity to the venue, um,
Mm.
because typically, often the venue hotels don't have that type of kitchen setup.
Right. And it's far
So
more expensive. Yeah.
exactly, and it's far more expensive. So, um, really looking for something that gives them that access to still cook their food, um, proximity to the venue, and proximity to a gym
Mm.
are usually the big asks.
Right.
And typically, more often than not, those type of places, even though it sounds like they wouldn't be, they are much cheaper than the venue hotel would be. And if you factor in, if you don't have a kitchen now, you're having to really get pricey with the different aspects of trying to get food
Right.
during that time. So it's definitely a cost saving.
Mm.
Yeah.
What are some of the do's and don'ts that you tell travelers, whether they're competitors or throughout the whole industry?
So um, plan. Um, the most interesting thing is people who message me and they want to leave the country. And I always ask about budget, and
Hmm.
they may have a budget of $2,000, and
Hmm.
I'll realistically say, there's not many places you're going to be able to leave the country and have the type of luxury trip that you want
Right.
for $2,000. So
Right.
this is where planning comes in handy, because if you're reaching out to me and you want to leave in a month, there's no
Hmm.
way,
Yeah.
even,
Not to go
there's just
overseas.
no way.
Yeah.
And so this is where planning comes in handy. It's never too early to plan for a trip. And the farther out you plan, the more deals you'll find. There's even early
Right.
booking deals. So plan, think 6 months from now, where do I want to go? And then actually book that trip. You don't have to have 100% of the trip cost. You can put a deposit, and that's another benefit of booking
Hmm.
further out in advance is you have time to actually make payments on the trip
Right.
long before you actually leave for the trip. So I think the biggest thing is people really being realistic about where they want to go with the budget that they have. And those trips are possible, But those higher ticket trips are something you should probably plan for much farther in advance than a month or 2 months out.
Mm.
And then
Wait.
also know where you're going and what's required as far as your passport
Mm.
and etiquette in other countries,
Yeah.
especially when traveling to the Middle East, for example. But know what the etiquette is, what is appropriate dress, and things like that for the countries that you want to travel to.
Mm. Yeah, you definitely don't want to disrespect someone's culture. And the idea of traveling overseas and you being American, not everybody likes America. Not everybody likes Americans. So, you need to take that into appropriate as to where you're going. And then also, do you have a list of areas that are banned travel as based on the U.S. Department of Defense or Homeland Security, where they say, hey, you might not want to travel here? How do you
Yes.
advise your clients when it comes
So
to
a
that?
couple of months ago, there was a lot of discussion about Jamaica in
Mm-hmm.
particular. And there was a lot of warning, a lot of hesitancy on the part of people, but the warning was no different than what was already, like, that warning had been in place for a long time. I think it just got into
Mm-hmm.
the media and it seemed like something new, right?
Right.
So when you're traveling, and I always, for multiple reasons, advocate for staying on a resort unless you
Mm-hmm.
know someone personally where you want to stay off resort. If you're going to visit family, things like that, that's different. But if that is
Okay.
not an area that you're familiar with and it's your first time traveling, stay on the resort.
Right.
There's really nothing to come off of the resort for because everything is there. So that really is the safest way to travel. I always tell people, be aware of your surroundings. Um, Only travel with what you need as far as your documents and money, credit cards, things like that. There's so many things that are electronic that it really minimizes what you need to have on you. But
Mm-hmm.
also, there's a specific wallet that I tell people to travel with because there, especially in airports, there are people
Mm-hmm.
who will just need to be in proximity of you to get information off of your credit cards. They
Wow.
never have to physically steal your credit card, but these wallets have barriers to avoid that kind of wireless
Right.
downloading of your information. So I do really in the weeks leading up to my client's trip, start giving them information. What to pack,
Mm-hmm.
what the temperature is like at the time of year that you're going, what to have for the excursions that you have planned, so that they're really prepared um, as they're traveling. And then I'm available to them as they're traveling while they're at their destination until they get back.
Mm.
So if they run into issues, especially when leaving the country, it's easier for me to navigate for them as opposed to them trying to handle all of that and be in the process of travel. Um, I also encourage people to get travel insurance. And
Mm-hmm.
thus far, I haven't had anyone decline it, um, because as a nurse, I've taken care of patients who've been airlifted off of a cruise to the closest hospital. They're not in their home country. There's nothing more terrifying than being out of your country and you become sick. You don't know
Mm-hmm.
anything about how things are set up, how to even access care. Your health insurance doesn't cover, you're way out of network. That is what travel insurance is for. If you have
Right.
medical conditions, if you run out of your meds, if you, all of that is covered. If your
Mm-hmm.
flight is delayed, if the trip is canceled, you're going to get 100% back of what you paid for that trip. That whole policy is there to protect you. So I really encourage people to travel with travel insurance.
Is that very expensive, or is that something that they can just do it just for that trip?
You can do it for the trip, and it's basically based on the cost of that trip. For
Okay.
people who travel more frequently, I suggest they get an annual plan, and it just covers them whenever they travel during the course of that year.
Right.
Um, yeah. but it's not as expensive as people think.
What
Yeah.
about short trips like weekend travel? Um, they're just going out of town for 2 or 3 days.
Uh-huh.
How far in advance should they book those? Whether it's flight or train, and do you try to sell them on what's the cheapest mode of travel? Um, because you may be cheaper for airplanes versus train, or nobody's taking a bus. I would hope not. But yeah, I was so thankful them days were over. Like, never again, Lord, let me ever have to take that gray dog.
The Greyhound is, yeah.
Mm,
So I really, when I talk to people, I really try to understand, why you're traveling, what is it that you need? What does it ultimately look like if this is a successful trip? Now, if this
right.
is just a weekend trip, I'm going to recommend nonstop flights because you don't want to waste
Mm-hmm.
all that time in layovers when you only
Mm-hmm.
have a weekend, to be where you want to
Right.
be. So my recommendation is going to be the quickest way to get you there, um, just so that you can maximize the time that you're actually where you're trying to go. I do ask the budget question because then that helps me give options that are in alignment with what they can afford. I always give three quotes. So kind of
Mm-hmm.
right at what your budget is, a little bit under and a little bit over. And then I kind of explain my rationale for why I included this, that sort of thing. And then I let them choose. But based on, if it's just a weekend trip, I would say, well, the quicker you can get there, the better. So that's why I recommended flights with no layovers, if that's
Right.
possible, that sort of thing. Sometimes the weekend trips, somebody may say, oh, we didn't plan it, but now we have this time. So maybe they only give me a few days notice. That's fine, because
Right.
maybe it wasn't something they knew about far in advance. And then I have people who, may say, I'm thinking 2 or 3 months from now, we're going to take a trip during this holiday weekend. Um, so then I'll start really looking at what's most cost effective, especially around a holiday weekend.
Right. So let
Yeah.
me give you a scenario. The Atlanta Pro is on 12 through 14 July. And obviously the Chicago Pro is on 18 and 19 July. Are they behind the power curve if they're trying to say, hey, I need a flight to Atlanta to make the Atlanta Pro? What are some if you got a competitor that's competing in the Atlanta Pro, for example, what are some of the things and they contact you today? What are you telling them? What are you suggesting?
I would say they're not behind. And I say that mostly because those are both very busy airports, meaning there's
Mm,
a lot of flights coming in. If it were maybe in a smaller, more remote area, it might be a
okay.
little trickier as far as availability of flights. But Atlanta and Chicago really are one of the busiest airports, international flights. So there's always
Major
flights coming
hubs.
in and out. Right,
Yeah.
exactly. But I would definitely say, if they reached out to me today, I would be trying to book them today,
Okay.
just so we don't let any more time, pass, because the flights will get more expensive. Availability of flights will be harder just because they'll start filling up.
Talk to me about rebates, discounts. Um, Competitor, maybe they're a teacher, maybe they're prior military or military retired. You always want as massive amount of discounts as possible. What discounts are out there for them now currently for travel?
So I'll start with the military. There's always military discounts um, for active duty, retired, and some
Mm-hmm.
like sandals um, or Norwegian actually
Mm-hmm.
also includes if you were injured in duty or disabled
Okay.
service member. They have a standing discount regardless of what
I
other
didn't know that.
discounts are applied to your stay.
Based
As
on your
well
disability
as
rating.
Norwegian will also have that includes ship credits to use on board
Okay.
in addition to that. So those are some of my qualifying questions. Are
Mm-hmm.
you prior or active duty? Because then I'll automatically look for those. But most travel providers have them. Um, Same for at this time of year. Um, it's some of these deals that I've seen. I'll just use cruises.
Mm-hmm.
Um, are like never seen before. Virgin is an adult only cruise line. And so right now they have discounted rates, and then the second person is 70% off. Like that's
Oh, wow.
unheard of. Like
Yeah.
people, more and more
70%.
people are cruising, and these
Mm-hmm.
cruise lines are trying to keep up with the mass.
Mm-hmm.
Every year cruising becomes more popular, and
Right.
it's something that people don't always automatically think about, but if you do, it's almost more cost effective. You pay for your cruise fare, everything is
Mm-hmm.
included. So once you step on the ship, you don't have to think about, let me set up or figure out what to do for today. You know when the excursions are, you know when your import days are, it's all arranged. And so
Right.
you can really just relax and focus on your trip and the people that you're with, and have a good time. So it really is a smart way to travel, especially if you're traveling with a group.
Mm.
Um, or even a large family group, like a family reunion, or just a
Yeah.
lot of extended family, because there's
They can get a
something.
group discount. Yeah.
Exactly. And if you choose, not Virgin because it's kids only, but if you
Mm-hmm.
choose a cruise line that is multi-generational in their approach, there's something for everybody to do. So you don't have to try to figure out what to do with the kids, what to do with the teens, there's something for
Right.
everybody. So the cruise industry is just blowing up.
Yeah.
Um, so there's I can't stress enough the discounts that are there, and you don't have to take even though the discounts are presented right now,
Right.
these booking windows may be for a month, but that travel window may be into next year. So this again is something that you
Mm-hmm.
could plan for, but still reap the benefit now with the discounted rates.
Then of course you got that travel that you weren't expecting to take. Death in the family. Talk to me about bereavement discounts. How can they maximize that? What specifically does a person need or a traveler need to give you? Said, hey, I got to go home for a funeral. Such and such passed away. What's the best deal I can get?
So I've actually had to do that for myself.
Mm,
And the airline wanted, they, it depends on the airline, but at the time they only wanted to see an obituary. Some may ask ultimately for, like, because we don't get a hold of the death certificate, even,
right.
say as a family member, but usually they'll accept an obituary or something to that effect. And so they were able, in that instance, they gave me a red eye flight. So then I
Mm,
didn't have to do layover, so I could get there quickly and get back because it was unexpected. Um, so there's definitely opportunity there, and that's the benefit of having a travel agent,
right.
because that's the stuff that I handle. And then you can just focus on the other things that you need to do.
And it's more personable feel, that you're taking care of me. Now, when
Exactly.
you arrange to travel, do you arrange to travel on ground as far as rent a car, the whole deal as well?
Yes. So rental car, or if you're, say, going, I had a client that was going to Dominican Republic.
Hmm.
They just needed transfers or car service to and from the airport to the resort. So I arrange all of that. Any aspect of your travel, including activities that you want to do while you're there, your travel insurance, your documents. If you're going, say, for example, to Jamaica, I have my clients go through MoBay, which is
Hmm.
kind of a personalized customs service, that will, they can sit and wait. It's beautiful. while they handle all their custom stuff, and then they get priority and getting in and out of the hotel airport. So I handle every aspect of travel. And then what I hand over to you is this beautiful itinerary with all of your information and everything you need. And then I'm preparing you along the way and with you while you're traveling. If it's your anniversary, a birthday trip, I may have something waiting for you in your room when you get there, just as a celebration or a thank you. So I really try to make it personalized, and it's really something I enjoy doing. And so I want, people to feel like they're being taken care of
Right.
throughout that whole process.
What's been your, I guess, horror story, or maybe not horror story? What's been the most challenging trip? Like, say you get a last minute wedding and everybody's got to arrive Saturday by 2 o'clock, for example. Do you have any of those stories?
I don't have any of those stories yet.
Mhm.
I do
Well,
have
that's
a
good.
friend who's has a wedding coming up, and she's gonna let me handle her travel,
Okay.
which I'm excited about. I'm excited
Yeah.
about doing a wedding, but I think I can't really say I have any horror stories. Um, I think for the most part, because people that I've worked with are traveling for joyous reasons. They're
Right.
excited. Um, I haven't had anybody leave their passport or anything like anything like
Right.
that. Which is why I start talking to people in advance.
Hmm.
Because I know most people wait to the last minute to pack. So, like, take your papers out now, put them in your suitcase now,
Right.
that sort of thing. But I haven't had any horror stories yet.
Hmm. They'll have their travel packet ready to go. You
Yes.
mentioned the travel wallet. What kind of travel wallet are you recommending that people get? I know it stops the people from coding and getting your numbers off your credit cards and such, but what's that called? Is it expensive or?
Any wallet that has I believe it's RGIF technology in it.
Okay.
And there's multiple brands. Some are pricier than others, but you can search on Amazon.
Gotcha.
And I highly recommend those, especially when you're traveling, for sure.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Airlines. What's the best one? What's the worst one? Obviously, you always hear the horror stories about the airlines, loss of luggage,
Yeah.
luggage getting stolen. Um, is there an airline that you would recommend that people try to take versus one that you wouldn't recommend?
I never put my clients on Spirit.
Ah, and I would say, yeah, I was gonna say if I should say Spirit, but I'm just gonna see what she says.
I'm
But
just
yeah,
not gonna.
Spirit is special.
No, I'm not gonna do it. I do ask, if people have an airline that they really love and they have a ton of points and miles,
Mhm.
and that's who they want to use, then I do that, and I include their number so that they get credit even for the flights that I'm booking for them for their miles
Right.
and their points. But if they don't have a preference, I always go with Southwest first.
Okay.
And some of it is based on the destination, but
Okay. They
I'll
have more
always
destinations.
right. I'll always check Southwest and Delta first because they have really good vacation packages. So those are usually my two go-tos first.
Okay.
Yeah,
Have you had any competitors contact you that's coming from overseas going to a show?
I have not. I
Okay.
have not. That would be awesome, but I have not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was going to ask. So if you have a competitor coming from overseas trying to say to get to the Chicago Pro, that being a major hub airport as well as you said, what are some of the things that they should be doing right now? Say they're coming from Italy to compete in Chicago.
Well, I think this made me think about Olympia last year,
Hmm.
where so many competitors weren't able to come across
Right.
for
Because
visa
of the visa.
issues.
Yeah.
And so that would be my main question: is where they are visa wise, and are they
Right.
certain that they're able to leave? the country, or will be accepted in when they come through customs. Um,
Right.
that always seems to be the trickiest part. And so for me, I would be looking at what country they're coming from and what I can see on my end as far as um, with the embassy and things like that, as far as travel, as far as whether they would be accepted or experience any hardships trying to come into the country. It was so disheartening to see so many competitors go through an entire prep,
Yes.
qualify,
Yes.
do a show to qualify, then go through an entire Olympia prep, and then not be able to come over.
Yeah.
It's just heartbreaking. So I would really want to do everything possible to make sure that it was something that was even possible before having them put forth money. And, it's just
Right.
such a tough situation. So I would really be trying to ensure that, and making sure that if they did, want to book travel, that they did have that insurance, so
Right.
that if anything happened and they weren't able to, that they would be able to recoup their losses from the cost of the
Mhm.
trip.
Have you engaged promoters, NPC, IFBB about the what you offer as a travel agency and how you could help competitors travel?
So
Because
I've
you got to
started,
admit that'd be a heck of a client to get them locked in.
yes. I just started reaching out. Marketing is expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just started reaching out to some promoters. I um, briefly talked to Tamara Wilcott, who has a show, powerlifting, but in
Mm-hmm.
January of next year, about being a sponsor in that show, just to get more visibility amongst competitors, as well as, offer assistance with their travel. So really trying to, with what I earn from this business, put it back into the business as far as marketing dollars and things like that.
Right. All right, I'm gonna let you out of here on this one. And
Okay.
since you brought up the Olympia is in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a scenario of what travelers or competitors they just qualified for the Olympia, what they should be looking for, how far in advance should they book. We're coming up on 16 weeks, I think, before the Olympia. It's Vegas. We want the big revenue as far as the big travel experience as well
Yeah.
for the family, but specifically to the competitor. What are some of the things you can offer?
So I was in Vegas in May, and
Mm-hmm.
I was able to see the venue where the Olympia
Oh,
will
good,
be.
good scouting. There you go.
It was magical,
Mm-hmm.
beautiful, huge. And it's on, all of the strip is busy, but it's on the busy end of the strip near the Sphere and a lot of other things.
Right.
So being that that's the venue, the convention center is directly across the street, which is where the expo will be.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you're going as a competitor or a fan and you're just going to see the Olympia, the sooner the better. Because while Olympia is going on, there's something else going on. There's multiple events taking place
Right.
in Vegas all the time. And
Right.
so you don't want to wait to lock in a room, because rooms fill up fast. People book
Right.
way in advance for Vegas. So
Right.
even though it sounds like 16 weeks is a long time out, it's not. And
Mm-hmm.
even if you booked the room and something came up, if it was I didn't pay it all, maybe I just reserved the room, but I didn't pay yet.
Mm-hmm.
You follow the cancellation policy, and you're free and clear. But it's
Right.
better to have a space than to be looking for a space as it gets closer, because that, even the block of rooms that are being held at the venue, I keep checking, and they're pretty much filling up, and that
Mm-hmm.
is a very pricey venue. The rooms
It
are not
is.
cheap.
It
So
really is.
if you want to stay, and I always recommend to people, the strip is beautiful, but there are places to stay off the strip that are literally a block away and so much cheaper. So is your goal for the trip? Now, if you've never been to Vegas, then hey,
Right.
yeah, stay on the strip, but if you've been there and you're trying to, Olympia is going to be an expensive weekend between the expo, getting in the shows. So think about where you want to spend your dollars, but don't wait. One thing I'll say is that you don't really need, unless you really just want to, you don't need to have a rental car in Vegas. The way things are positioned, you can walk the strip, but you'll end up paying so much more to park your car. That sometime when we went in May, we Ubered, and
how was that?
came
How
out
expensive was it?
cheaper than renting the car, and then $30 to $50 a night, depending on the hotel, to park the car.
Right.
So keep that in mind too. And these are all things that I bring up because Vegas has restructured itself and is very Uber friendly. So even starting at the airport, there's a whole lot just dedicated to Uber and Lyft drivers, picking people up from the airport. So don't wait, and think about what it is that you need or what you want to get out of that weekend. There are places there that you can stay that have a kitchen, a full kitchen, things like that in the room, but you're not going to find that at the venue hotel. So just things to keep in mind.
Yeah. And of course, if you're an Olympian, the Olympia does fly you in. They do pay for your hotel, but you got to come in Monday or Tuesday just so that you can get ready and be at your best.
Yes.
You're going to have to maybe stay at another hotel before you go check in to the venue hotel that the Olympia is paying for. So they pay for a lot, but you still got to get there early,
Yes.
And ideally, if women's bodybuilding is going on stage on Friday, in a perfect world, I'm thinking you need to be there no later than Tuesday. Would that be accurate?
Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
Marquet Johnson, thank you so much for coming back on. She's an NPT women's bodybuilder. What's coming up for you? Are you going to do a show this year?
Yes. I actually have a new coach, and I am very excited. He is amazing. We're looking at fall, probably late fall of this year, and to give my body time for him to learn my body, for me to do the work, and put my best package up. So I'm really excited.
Can you name the coach?
Yes, his name is Brandon Savoy. He's here in Maryland. I live in DMV. And he's awesome. Yeah, highly recommend.
Marquet Johnson, and this is actually her ad that is in the Amazon's Fitness magazine. For those who like to Wanderlust Voyages, at Wanderlust Voyages on Instagram. Hit her up for all your travel needs. And the thing about it, I'm always about trying to support a competitor that has a business. And you can support each other. If, in your case, Marquette has a travel business. Haley Perry has Perry Spices, which she just sent. I just got those. Can't wait to try them out. Nina Amperfall, Nina Beans, yournuts.com. So many more businesses that you can support. And then, of course, they got online posing, coaching, that as well. But if they support each other, and then, it takes grace to know that you're, helping another competitor because you're supporting their business.
That's right.
And so that's a good thing. Marquette, thanks for coming on. Keep me posted with what's going on. And again, Wanderlust Travels, hit her up, contact her, make your travel plans now. And great. Really appreciate you coming on. Thanks.
Thank you so much for all your support.
Not at all. Talk soon.
Take care. All right.
Coming up tomorrow night is Wellness Wednesday with Melissa Guerrero, and she has a special guest who just competed in Miami, IFBB Wellness Pro, Yami Pritchard will be her guest. So you want to check that out. That's going to be on at 8:45. And then at 7:30, Sheena Williamson will be on the podcast. NPC competitor. She's a figure, and can't wait to talk to her as well. So tune in tomorrow at 7:30 and 8:45 for Wellness Wednesday and Sheena Williamson, NPC Figure Pro. I'm Glenn Young. I'm a little bit under the weather, as you cannot tell. My voice is fading, but tomorrow I won't have to do much talking because Melissa will be doing it all. So cannot wait. If you want to order the magazine on the site, click on issues and you can order your personal copy of the May issue of Amazon's Fitness Magazine. The July issue is slated to come out around the 20th. Currently working on it. Want to try to get in some shoots for the Atlanta Pro, which I will be going to. So if you want to book now, contact me. I will be there during the weekend and book your shoot, and that'll be for the July and September issue of Amazon's Fitness Magazine. So appreciate everyone's support. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. As always, celebrate the female physique and subscribe to AmazonsFitMag.com. I'm Glenn Young, and I will see you tomorrow night.